My sister-in-law faked car accident injuries to manipulate my husband, but I caught her on camera. Now, she's in jail for fraud. I never expected to be spilling my heart out on Reddit. Yet here I am, desperate for advice and support. I'm Nancy, 28F, and I'm currently dealing with my husband's family, notably his sister, Jenny, 32F. Jenny and I have always had a rocky relationship, but recent events have pushed things to the breaking point. To provide some context, I met my husband, Warren, 30M, at a mutual friend's Halloween party 5 years ago. I remember it like it was yesterday. I was dressed as Wonder Woman, and he arrived as Clark Kent. We spent the entire night conversing in a secluded nook, ignoring the craziness of the party around us. We hit it off right away, bonding over our mutual love of hiking, photography, and 1980s movies. I had never felt such an instant connection with anyone before. We chose to marry after 2 years of dating, which included weekend escapades, nice movie nights, and the occasional disagreement, typically about Warren's habit of leaving his socks everywhere. Our wedding was a small, personal celebration in a rustic barn, attended by close friends and family. That was when I first met Jenny. Jenny made it apparent from the moment we met that she did not like me. She arrived late for the rehearsal dinner in a white outfit that looked strangely bridal. During her toast, she spent more time reminiscing about her childhood memories with Warren than wishing us success in our marriage. She even accidentally poured red wine on my outfit during the reception. At the time, I put it down to wedding day stress and attempted to dismiss it. Jenny's behavior intensified over the months. She would make disparaging remarks about my work as a freelance graphic designer, hinting that I wasn't talented enough for her brother. "Oh, you're still doing that little drawing thing?" she'd ask with a condescending smile. "I thought you'd have found a real job by now." Each comment seemed like a small knife, eroding my self-esteem. Warren is from a close-knit family, and he has always been protective of Jenny. Jenny's parents died in a vehicle accident when she was 18, leaving her to raise Warren alone. She put her goal of becoming a nurse on hold in order to support her family with 2 jobs. I understand and admire their bond, but Jenny uses it to control Warren and disrupt our relationship. The first serious incident happened on our first wedding anniversary. Warren and I had planned a weekend retreat to a quiet mountain chalet where we had spent our first trip together. I had been looking forward to it for months, planned hikes, picnics, and even a surprise candlelight dinner beneath the stars. 2 days before we were about to depart, Jenny called Warren in tears, saying she was going through a difficult breakup and needed her brother's support. Warren, being the compassionate guy he is, proposed that we postpone our trip to be present for Jenny. I was disappointed, but I understood the circumstances. After all, family comes first, right? However, when we got to Jenny's house, we discovered her laughing and drinking wine with her friends. There were no signs of a split or sorrow. When I asked her about it later, she dismissed it, claiming she was simply feeling low and needed some companionship. "You wouldn't understand, Nancy," she murmured patronizingly, patting my arm. "Warren and I share a special bond. Sometimes I just want my little brother around." Warren saw nothing wrong with it, but I couldn't resist the suspicion that Jenny had purposefully thwarted our intentions. Jenny's intrusion into our life increased in frequency and severity over time. She would pop up unexpectedly at our place, usually on date nights or when Warren and I had scheduled some quality time together. She once interrupted a romantic dinner that I had spent hours preparing. "Oh, did I interrupt something?" she inquired innocently before settling onto our couch and putting on the television. She would phone Warren at weird hours, claiming to have various emergencies that always seemed to be resolved by the time we arrived. One night at 2 a.m., she called to report a gas leak in her apartment. We rushed over, only to find her quietly watching a movie, saying the scent had vanished just before we arrived. The problem came to a climax last month at Warren's 30th birthday celebration. I had spent weeks preparing a surprise party for all of Warren's friends and colleagues. I even managed to fly in his best friend from college, Mike, whom he hadn't seen in years due to their locations on separate coasts. The celebration was in full swing, with everyone enjoying the catered cuisine, open bar, and the presentation of Warren's life that I had painstakingly created. Jenny arrived an hour late, crashing into the living room, evidently intoxicated. She was holding a large gift box covered in glittering gold paper, and she proudly stated that she had the nicest present for her little brother. The room went silent as she demanded everyone's attention. The box contained a set of keys. Jenny proudly announced that she had purchased Warren a classic car he had long desired, a 1967 Chevrolet Impala, the very kind his father used to drive. I felt my heart sink. My own gift, a homemade picture album recording our relationship and a weekend vacation to his favorite camping spot, paled in comparison. The room fell silent as all eyes went to Warren. I could see the conflict on his face. He was definitely moved by the gesture, but he was also concerned by the gift's extravagant nature. "Jen," he continued quietly, "this is too much. How did you afford this?" But what occurred next really stunned me. Jenny looked at me triumphantly and said, "See, this is how you show love, not with some cheap crafts and a trip to the woods." Her words struck deep, and I felt embarrassed in front of all of our guests. The room became uncomfortably quiet, and our friends shifted nervously, unsure where to look. Warren eventually spoke up, his voice strained with rage. "Jenny, that is enough. Your behavior is inappropriate, and you need to leave." Jenny's face distorted with wrath. She threw the keys at Warren's chest before stumbling towards me, pointing an accusatory finger. "You," she muttered, "have turned him against me. You are ruining our family." She stormed out, knocking over a vase of flowers, and slammed the door so hard that a picture fell from the wall. The gathering soon dispersed after that, with guests making awkward excuses to go early. I was left standing in our living room, surrounded by half-finished food and deflated balloons, feeling completely dejected. Warren and I had a long, emotional chat late into the night after everyone else had gone. He apologized for not standing up to Jenny sooner and promised to set clearer boundaries with her. We agreed that Jenny's behavior was harmful and that we needed to minimize our interactions with her for the sake of our marriage. But as I looked into Warren's eyes, I could sense the sorrow and turmoil. How could I ask him to choose between his wife and his sister, who had given so much for him? The next day, Warren called Jenny to discuss what had transpired. He informed her that her actions were inappropriate and that she needed to apologize to me if she wanted to remain a part of our life. Jenny refused, claiming she had done nothing wrong and that I was causing difficulties in their family. "I'm the only real family you have left, Warren," she added, her voice full of sorrow. "Don't let her take that away from you." We'd reached an impasse. Warren is caught between his feelings for me and his commitment to his sister. I don't want to force him to make a decision, but I can't keep living with the continual stress and drama. I'm thinking about suggesting that we move to a different city to get some distance, but I'm concerned about Warren's reaction. Would he consider it an ultimatum? Would this merely bring him closer to Jenny? I adore my husband and want to make our marriage work, but I'm beginning to worry if it's possible with Jenny's frequent intervention. Am I overreacting? Should I work harder to reconcile with Jenny for Warren's sake, or should I take more drastic measures to protect our relationship? Any advice is much appreciated. I feel like I'm drowning in a sea of family drama, and I'm not sure how to get back to shore. Update. It has been almost a month since my original post, and I wanted to provide an update on Jenny's situation. A lot has happened, and I'm still trying to digest it all. Thank you to everyone who gave me advice and support. It helped me get through this difficult period. Following my previous post, Warren and I discussed Jenny's behavior and its influence on our marriage many more times. We decided to take a break from Jenny for a while to focus on our relationship. Warren committed to limiting his contact with her and to always communicating with me before making any plans that involved his sister. It was not an easy decision for him, and I could feel the guilt weighing on him, but he saw that it was vital for our marriage. For the first few weeks, everything was peaceful. Jenny seemed to respect our boundaries, and Warren and I were spending some much-needed quality time together. We resumed regular date nights, which we hadn't done in months due to Jenny's frequent interruptions. We even began organizing a vacation for just the two of us, a hiking trip through multiple national parks, which we had discussed since we first started dating but had never found the time for. For the first time in a long time, I felt optimistic about the future. However, roughly 3 weeks after Warren's birthday party, events took an unexpected turn. It was a quiet Sunday evening, and Warren and I were watching a movie on the couch when his phone rang. Mrs. Johnson, Jenny's neighbor, was identified on the caller ID. Warren answered, his brow furrowed with concern. Warren's face lost color as I watched, and he jumped up abruptly, nearly knocking over his glass of wine. "We'll be right there," he said, his voice cracking. He turned to me, his eyes wide with horror. "Jenny has been in a car accident. She's at St. Mary's Hospital." The drive to the hospital was tense. Warren held the steering wheel so tightly that his knuckles turned white, while I tried to get more information from Mrs. Johnson over the phone. Jenny was driving home from a bar when she lost control of her vehicle and crashed into a tree. The police suspected she was driving under the influence. We arrived at the hospital and found Jenny in the emergency department. She was conscious but definitely in pain, with her right arm in a temporary cast and minor cuts on her face from the shattered windshield. When she spotted Warren, she burst into tears and reached for him with her good arm. "I'm so sorry," she wailed as Warren gently embraced her. I messed up so badly." I stood awkwardly to the side, torn between sorrow for Jenny's situation and annoyance that yet another crisis had interrupted our lives. The doctor informed us that Jenny had been fortunate. Aside from a fractured arm and some cuts and bruises, she had no serious injuries. However, she would need someone to care for her for a few weeks while her arm healed. Warren offered to take care of her before I could even process what that meant. "She can stay with us," he added, looking at me pleadingly, "just until she gets back on her feet. We can't leave her alone like this." I wanted to object, reject, and remind him of our commitment to keep boundaries. But how could I say no in this situation? I reluctantly nodded in agreement. Jenny moved in with us the next day, and it's been a nightmare ever since. She continuously demands Warren's attention, calling him for everything. "Warren, can you help me with my pillows? Warren, I need a glass of water. Warren, can you change the channel for me?" It's as if she's returned to a helpless child, and Warren is only too willing to play the role of protective older brother. She complains about everything. "Nancy, the food you cook is too spicy. Don't you realize I have a delicate stomach? The way you've set up the guest room, the sun comes in too brightly in the morning. Can't you get some better curtains?" And just about anything else she could think of. I try to be patient, reminding myself that she is injured and likely in pain, but it's wearing me down. The worst part is that I am beginning to suspect Jenny isn't as helpless as she claims to be. I've noticed her using her injured arm normally when she thinks no one is looking, like reaching for the TV remote or adjusting her hair. But the moment Warren enters the room, she returns to wincing and gripping her arm as if it were made of glass. When I conveyed this to Warren, he accused me of being paranoid and uncaring. "She's hurt, Nancy," he replied, his voice tight and frustrated. "Why can't you just be supportive?" I felt crazy. Was I truly being unreasonable, or was Jenny manipulating us both? Things escalated last night when I overheard Jenny on the phone with a friend. I hadn't intended to eavesdrop, but as I walked past the guest room to do laundry, I heard Jenny's voice, which was particularly energetic and enthusiastic. Curiosity got the best of me, so I stopped outside the door to listen. "Girl, you wouldn't believe how well this is working out," Jenny said, laughing. "I have Warren waiting on me hand and foot. He's so worried about me. It's almost too easy." She paused to listen to her friend's response. "The arm? Oh, it barely hurts anymore. But they don't need to know that, do they? I believe I can stretch this out for at least another month. Maybe by then, I'll be able to convince Warren that he's far better off with his real family." I felt like I had been punched in the gut. All of my concerns were confirmed in the worst conceivable way. Jenny wasn't simply taking advantage of the situation. She was deliberately trying to drive a wedge between Warren and myself. I was at a loss about what to do. I tried to tell Warren what I heard, but he didn't believe me. He thinks I'm just trying to get rid of Jenny and that my animosity for her is clouding my judgment. "Why would she lie about being hurt?" he asked, his voice filled with disbelief. "That doesn't make any sense, Nancy. I feel insane in my own home, watching this woman manipulate my husband and ruin our marriage. The vacation we had planned seems like a distant memory now. Instead of hiking through beautiful scenery, I was stuck in a house with a woman who appeared determined to ruin my life. I'm thinking about taking a few days off to clear my head, possibly staying with my friend Lisa, but I'm concerned about leaving Warren alone with Jenny and her influence. What if I return to discover she has completely turned him against me? I love my husband, but I'm beginning to question if our marriage will survive this. How can we move forward if he doesn't believe me? How do I compete with the bond he has with Jenny? Any advice is much appreciated. I feel like I've reached the end of my rope and have no idea what to do next. Update 2. It's been 2 months since my previous update, and Jenny's situation has taken an unexpected turn. I'd like to thank everyone who gave advice and support. It really helped me get through this difficult period. After my last update, I was at my wit's end. I couldn't continue to watch Jenny damage my marriage. Taking several commenters' advice, I decided to gather concrete evidence of Jenny's deceit. I know many of you recommended against it, citing privacy concerns, but I felt I had no choice. I installed a covert camera in the living room. I told myself it was only for a few days, just long enough to show Warren that I wasn't imagining things. Within 2 days, I had convincing evidence that Ginny used her injured arm normally when Warren wasn't around. I caught her lifting heavy books, fixing her hair, and even opening a tight jar lid with the arm she claimed was too painful to use. The real shock came when I recorded a conversation between Ginny and one of her friends who had come to visit. Ginny openly criticized me, calling me gullible and boasting about how easy it was to manipulate Warren. "He's always been a sucker for the damsel in distress act," she told her friend. "A few crocodile tears, and he's putty in my hands." I felt horrible listening to it, but I knew I'd found the proof I needed. With shaking hands, I transferred the recording to a USB drive and waited for Warren to return home from work. When Warren arrived, I sat him down and told him what I'd done. He was outraged at first, accusing me of invading Ginny's privacy, but I begged him to just watch the videos. His face turned pale as he saw the footage of Ginny using her arm normally and heard her mocking words. "I can't believe this," he whispered, his voice hoarse. "Why would she do this?" I had no response for him, but I felt a flood of relief wash over me. Warren finally saw the truth. Warren confronted Ginny that evening. The subsequent argument was fierce and difficult to watch. Ginny first denied everything and accused me of altering the footage, but when confronted with overwhelming evidence, she broke down. Through tears, Ginny admitted to faking her injuries and trying to drive us apart. She discussed feeling abandoned when Warren married and her fear of losing the only family she had left. Ginny had never shown me this side of herself before: vulnerable, terrified, and deeply insecure. Warren, torn between anger and concern for his sister, told Ginny to leave our home immediately. She begged him to let her stay, promising to change, but Warren stood firm. "You need help, Ginny," he said, his tone stern but not cruel. "Professional help. And until you can respect our marriage, you are not welcome here." Ginny left that night amidst tears and recriminations. The house felt strangely quiet after she left. Warren and I sat in silence for a long time, processing the day's events. Warren finally turned to me and apologized. "I'm so sorry, Nancy," he said, his eyes filled with regret. "I should have believed you. I should have seen what was happening." We talked late into the night about trust, family, and the future of our marriage. Things remained tense for a few weeks, but they gradually improved. Warren went to therapy to sort out his complex feelings about his relationship with Ginny. We also began couples counseling to rebuild the trust that had been broken and strengthen our marriage. Then, approximately a month ago, we got unexpected news. Ginny had been arrested for fraud. Apparently, she had been running a small-scale Ponzi scheme, defrauding friends and acquaintances of their money. The classic car she had given Warren for his birthday? Warren was heartbroken to learn she had purchased it with stolen money. He felt bad for not recognizing the warning signs earlier and for possibly enabling Ginny's behavior over time. I did my best to support him during this difficult period, reminding him that Ginny's choices were her own. We've since learned that Ginny's pattern of deceit extended far beyond our relationship. She had a history of exploiting people's trust and sympathy for personal benefit. It was a difficult realization, but it helped Warren recognize that her actions were not his fault. This whole ordeal has tested our marriage. There are times when trust issues resurface, when one of us retreats into silence, but we're working through them together. We've learned to communicate more openly and rely on one another for support. We're still processing everything that happened, but we're doing it together. Warren has decided to distance himself completely from Ginny until she gets professional help and makes genuine amends. It's been difficult for him, but he knows it's essential for our well-being. We're focusing on healing and moving forward. We finally took our postponed vacation and are looking forward to spending more uninterrupted time together. There is still a long road ahead of us, but for the first time in a long time, I feel cautiously optimistic about our future. Update 3. It has been 6 months since my last update, and I wanted to share some concluding thoughts on this chapter of our lives. Warren and I have made considerable progress in our relationship. Couples counseling has been really beneficial, teaching us better communication skills and how to support each other through difficult times. We had to relearn how to trust one another, which wasn't always easy. There have been disagreements, moments of doubt, and nights spent sleeping apart. However, we've rediscovered the love and connection that brought us together in the first place. Warren has persisted with his individual therapy, working through his complex feelings about Jenny and his past. He's had to face some difficult truths about his childhood and the dynamic between him and his sister. It has been painful for him, but I can see him becoming stronger and more self-aware with each passing week. Jenny pled guilty to the fraud charges and is now serving a 2-year sentence. Warren debated whether or not to attend her sentencing hearing, but ultimately decided against it. He wrote her a letter explaining his decision and expressing his hope that she will utilize this time to reflect and get the help she needs. We haven't had direct contact with Jenny since she went to prison, but we did get a letter from her about a month ago. She apologized for her behavior and the pain she caused us. She added that she has been diagnosed with various mental health issues and is now receiving treatment. While the letter seems earnest, Warren and I are cautious about getting our hopes up. We've agreed that if Jenny displays persistent, long-term change following her release, we'll consider gradually re-establishing contact with her. But for now, we're keeping our distance. On a brighter note, Warren and I finally took that vacation we had planned. We spent 2 weeks hiking and camping in national parks, reconnecting with each other and the shared interests that drew us together in the beginning. There were moments of tension, old wounds surfacing in quiet moments around the campfire, but also moments of pure joy, of rediscovering each other away from the stress of daily life. We've also made some major decisions about our future. We plan to move to a new city next year for a fresh start. Warren has been offered an excellent job opportunity, and I'm excited about the potential for my freelance business in a new market. We both believe that a change of scenery will help us leave the turmoil of the past behind us and focus on building our life together. Looking back, I realize how this painful experience has ultimately strengthened our marriage. We've learned to stand together in the face of outside pressures, to trust each other implicitly, and to always prioritize our partnership. Warren has grown tremendously, learning to set healthy boundaries and recognize manipulative behavior, even from those closest to him. Personally, I've learned to trust my instincts and speak up when something feels wrong. I've also discovered the value of patience and understanding, especially when navigating complex family dynamics. Although the journey has been difficult, I am grateful for where it has taken us. Warren and I are closer than ever, and we are cautiously optimistic about what the future holds. We know there will always be challenges, but we feel better equipped to confront them together. Thank you to everyone who has followed our story and provided support along the way. Your guidance and encouragement have been invaluable. Here's to fresh starts and healthier connections.